Imagine, just for a second, stepping right into the middle of the world's oldest, most epic war. But we're not talking about a battle fought with swords and shields on some muddy field. No, this is a universal, cosmic struggle between the ultimate forces of light and darkness, truth and deception. And honestly, the most fascinating part? You are a frontline soldier.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into Zoroastrianism. It's a remarkably influential ancient faith from Iran, and it's built entirely around this universal struggle between good and evil. So let's jump right in and see how this ancient worldview literally shaped the foundations of how we understand morality today.
Here's what we're going to cover today. First, the ancient prophet Zoroaster. Second, Ahura Mazda, the wise lord. Third, Ahriman and cosmic chaos. Fourth, good thoughts, words, and deeds. Fifth, sacred fire and rituals. And finally, we'll look at its 3 millennia of history.
Section 1. The ancient prophet Zoroaster, the visionary of truth.
So when exactly did Zoroaster live? Well, his exact timeline is actually a huge mystery, and scholars debate it constantly. Traditional sources might peg him around 600 BCE, but modern linguistic and historical analysis of their sacred texts, known as the Avesta, suggests he lived way earlier. We're talking estimates stretching back to 1000 or even 1500 BCE. That puts him roughly in the exact same era as the ancient Vedic poets.
What we do know for sure is the profound impact of his teachings. Zoroaster lived in this culture of polytheism that was super focused on ritual, intoxicants, and animal sacrifice. But at age 30, he experienced this radical, transformative vision. He saw a singular, supreme creator. He completely rejected the old pantheon of gods, rejected the cruel sacrifices, and established what a lot of scholars consider to be the very first system of ethical monotheism. It was a total game changer.
Moving to Section 2, Ahura Mazda, the wise lord and supreme creator.
Meet Ahura Mazda. He is the uncreated, benevolent, all-wise supreme being. But here's the thing, he doesn't work alone. He emanates 6 or 7 divine entities known as the Amisha Spenta, or bounteous immortals. You can kind of think of them like archangels, but with a really fascinating twist. They represent both the mental, ethical qualities of God, things like a clear mind and truth, while also representing the actual physical elements of the cosmos. They act as the ultimate guardians of creation.
Now, to really grasp this faith's unique worldview, we have to look at the massive dichotomy it sets up. On one side, we have Ahura Mazda, embodying truth, light, and cosmic order, a concept they call Asha. And standing directly opposed to him is his ultimate adversary, Ahriman, also known as Angra Mainyu, who represents the lie, darkness, and chaos. It is a pure, unadulterated clash of opposites.
Which brings us to Section 3, Ahriman and cosmic chaos. The destructive spirit.
This is where Zoroastrianism offers a really fascinating philosophical solution to the whole problem of evil. In this faith, evil absolutely does not come from God. It has a completely separate origin. And get this, evil is strictly parasitic. Ahriman literally cannot create anything of his own. The story goes that Ahura Mazda created a perfectly flat, peaceful, illuminated material world, and Ahriman just invaded it. He polluted it with disease, death, and violence, making the world mountainous and half-night. He is purely a corrupter, not a creator.
Section 4. Good thoughts, words, deeds, the weapons of humanity.
So, if the whole world is this corrupted battlefield, how do we mortals actually fight in this cosmic war? Well, humanity's ultimate weapon is found in the religion's most famous and enduring maxim. To think a good thought, to speak a good word, to do a good deed is the best. Simple, right? But it's an incredibly direct and beautiful ethical compass. Humans have free will, and by actively choosing this threefold path, you align yourself with the forces of light. The absolutely crucial point here is that Zoroastrianism is a heavily pro-cosmic, pro-life religion. Asceticism, rejecting the material world and going off to live in a cave, is actively discouraged. The material world is actually seen as a trap designed by Ahura Mazda to catch evil. So by actively participating in life, doing good deeds, raising families, and cultivating the earth, humans actually help exhaust and defeat evil. And this all leads to the ultimate eschatological goal, Ahura Mazda's total victory, the purification of the world, and the joyful reunification of all souls.
Section 5. Sacred fire and rituals, maintaining cosmic purity. Now, beyond just ethical choices, humans actively fight chaos through physical purity and sacred practices. Initiation into the faith is this deeply symbolic process called the Nabshot ceremony, which is usually performed in childhood. It kicks off with a ritual bath for purification, followed by special prayers. Then, the initiate is given two sacred items they're meant to wear for life: a sacred white shirt called a sudre and a sacred cord called a kusti. This cord is tied around the waist as a constant physical reminder of their spiritual armor in the fight for good.
And that brings us to the religion's most famous symbol, fire. Now, to be clear, Zoroastrians don't worship fire itself. Instead, fire represents truth, purity, and the divine presence of Ahura Mazda. Inside enclosed fire temples, hereditary priests maintain eternal flames of varying sacred grades. And to prevent their own breath or saliva from polluting the holy fire, these priests actually wear a white cloth veil called the padan over their mouths. It's like the ultimate exercise in cosmic hygiene.
Section 6. 3 Millennia of History, an Enduring Legacy.
Let's zoom out for a second and trace the incredible legacy of this faith across the centuries, because Zoroastrianism has an absolutely massive historical footprint. Starting around 550 BCE, it served as the state religion for the mighty Persian empires, the Achaemenids, the Parthians, and the Sasanians. But following the Arab Islamic conquest of Persia in the 7th century CE, the religion saw a really steep decline. Seeking asylum so they could practice freely, a lot of Zoroastrians migrated to the Indian subcontinent by the 9th century. They thrived there and are known today as the Parsis.
But here is the fascinating part. Even as its political empire faded, its theological empire expanded in a huge way. Scholars widely agree that Zoroastrianism's groundbreaking ideas profoundly influenced the later Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Concepts that might sound super familiar to you, like a final judgment of souls, the division of heaven and hell, the arrival of a savior figure at the end of time, and the bodily resurrection of the dead. All of those have deep, foundational roots in the ancient teachings of Zoroaster.
Now, despite this massive cultural influence, the actual global population of practicing Zoroastrians today is pretty small. Current estimates suggest there are only around 130,000 to 140,000 active practitioners worldwide. And the population faces some tough modern challenges, including strict rules around endogamy, which means marrying within the faith, and restrictions on religious conversion. Both of these contribute to a declining demographic today.
Yet the flame definitely continues to burn, both literally in the temples and metaphorically in our global culture. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Every time we watch a movie or read a book that frames the world as an epic clash between pure good and parasitic evil, we are, in a very real way, looking at the world through the eyes of an ancient Iranian prophet. So how much of your own moral worldview is just an echo of the world's oldest cosmic battle? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.